Book of Heaven, Volume 12. 5th to 10th. January 1921. Page 171 to 175. January 5, 1921. The true life of the soul done in the divine will is nothing other than the formation of her life in the life of Jesus. Continuing in my usual state, I was praying, and while praying, I intended to enter the divine will. And so, making all that exists in the divine will my own, since nothing escapes it, past, present and future, and making myself crown of all, in the name of all I brought my homage, my love, my reparation, etc. before the divine majesty. Now, my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, the true life of the soul done in my will is nothing other than the formation of her life in mine, giving my own shape to everything she does. I did nothing but make all the acts I did, both interior and external, fly within my will. I made each thought of my mind fly, and flying over every thought of creature, which all existed in my will, my thought, flying over all, became almost crown of each human intelligence, and brought the homage, the adoration, the glory, the love, the reparation of each created thought to the majesty of the Father. The same with my gaze, my word, my motion, my step. Now, in order to live in my will, the soul must give the shape of my mind to her mind, the shape of my gaze, of my word, of my motion to hers. And by doing this, she loses her shape and acquires mine. She does nothing other than give continuous deaths to the human being and continuous life to the divine will. In this way the soul will be able to complete the life of my will within herself. Otherwise, this prodigy, this shape fully modeled on mine, will never be accomplished completely. Only my will, which is eternal and immense, allows her to find everything. It reduces the past and the future to one single point, and in this one point she finds all the beating hearts, all the living minds, all of my works in act. And the soul, making my will her own, does everything, satisfies for all, loves for all, and does good to all and to each one, as if all were one. Who can ever reach such extent? No virtue, no heroism, not even martyrdom can stand before my will. All remain behind the works done in my will. Therefore, be attentive and let the mission of my will have its fulfillment in you. January 7, 1921. The smile of Jesus when he will the first fruits, the children of his will, living not in the human sphere, but in the divine sphere. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus came and surrounded my neck with his arm. Then he drew near my heart, and holding his breast between his hands, he pressed it to my heart, and rivulets of milk came out of it. He filled my heart with those rivulets of milk, and then he told me, "My daughter, do you see how much I love you? I wanted to fill all your heart with the milk of grace and of love. So, everything you will say and do, will be nothing other than the outpouring of the grace with which I filled you. You will do nothing, you will just place your volition at the mercy of my will, and I will do everything. You will be nothing but the sound of my voice, the bearer of my will, the destroyer of the virtues in a human manner, and the restorer of the virtues in a divine manner, which are founded on an eternal, immense, infinite point." Having said this, he disappeared. After a little while he came back, and I was feeling all annihilated, especially in thinking about certain things which it is not necessary here to say. My affliction was at its summit, and I said to myself, "How can this be? My Jesus, do not permit this. Maybe you want the will, but not the act of this sacrifice." And then, in the hard state in which I find myself, I aspire to nothing but heaven. And Jesus, coming out from my interior, burst into sob. I could hear that sob resound in heaven and on earth, but as he was about to stop sobbing, a smile arose which, just like the sob, reverberated in heaven and on earth. I remained enchanted, and my Jesus told me, "My beloved daughter, after the great sorrow which creatures are giving me in these sad times, to the extent of making me cry, and because this is the crying of a God, it resounds in heaven and on earth, a smile will take over, which will fill heaven and earth with gladness." This smile will arise on my lips when I see the first fruits, the children of my will, living not in the human sphere, but in the divine sphere. I will see them all marked with the eternal, immense, infinite will. I will see that eternal point which has life only in heaven, flow upon earth and mold the souls with its infinite principles, with divine acting, with the multiplication of acts within one single act. And just as creation came out from the fiat, in the fiat it will be fulfilled. Only the children of my volition will accomplish everything in the fiat, and in my fiat, which will have life in them, I will receive complete love, glory, reparation, thanksgiving and praise, for everything and for everyone. My daughter, things return there where they come from. Everything came out from the fiat, and in the fiat everything will return to me. They will be few, but in the fiat they will give me everything. January 10, 1921. The fiat mihi of the Most Holy Virgin. God wants a second yes in His will. The fiat of Luisa. I was concerned about what is written above, and I said to myself, I don't know what Jesus wants from me. Yet, He knows how bad I am, and how good at nothing. And Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, remember that years ago I asked you if you wanted to live in my will, and since I wanted you in my will, I wanted you to pronounce your yes in my own volition. This yes was bound to an eternal point, and to a will which will never end. This yes is in the center of my volition, surrounded by infinite immensity, and if it tries to go out, it almost cannot find the way. Therefore, at your little oppositions, at some discontent of yours, I laugh and I amuse myself, because I see you like those people who are bound, by their own will, in the depth of the sea, and wanting to go out, they find nothing but water. And since they are bound in the depth of the sea, they feel the bother of wanting to get out, and in order to remain tranquil and happy, they plunge themselves even more into the depth of the sea. In the same way, in seeing you perplexed, as though wanting to go out, and in seeing that, unable to do it, being bound by your own yes, you plunge yourself even more into the depths of my will, I laugh, and I amuse myself. And then, do you think it is something trivial and easy to move from within my will? You would move an eternal point, and if you knew what it means to move an eternal point, you would tremble with fright. Then he added, I asked the first yes in my fiat of my dear Mama, and, oh, the power of her fiat in my will. As soon as the divine fiat met with the fiat of my Mama, the two became one. My fiat raised her, divinized her, overshadowed her, and with no human intervention, conceived me, the Son of God. Only in my fiat could she conceive me. My fiat communicated to her immensity, infinity, fecundity, in a divine manner, and therefore the immense eternal infinite one could be conceived in her. As soon as she said, fiat mihi, not only did she take possession of me, but she overshadowed all creatures and all created things. She felt within herself the life of all creatures, and from that moment she began to act as the mother and queen of all. How many portents does this yes of my Mama not contain? If I wanted to tell them all, you would never stop listening. Now, I asked a second yes in my will of you, and you, though trembling, pronounced it. This yes in my volition will accomplish its portents, it will have its divine fulfillment. You, follow me, plunge yourself more deeply into the immense sea of my will, and I will take care of everything. My Mama did not think about how I would manage to incarnate myself in her. She just said, fiat mihi, and I took care of how to be incarnated. So you will do.